within our body on issues, and those won't disappear. On certain bills, both sides will use every procedural tactic that makes the Senate a different body than the House, but hopefully on most we won't. In conclusion, while those of us who wanted reform in the Senate didn't get everything we wanted, the Senate will be a significantly better place for the changes we are enacting. As a result of this agreement, there should be more debate, more votes, fewer items blocked by a single senator or a small minority of senators. Make no mistake about it, this agreement is not a panacea, but it's a very significant step on the road to making the Senate function in a better, fairer way. And again, I thank all of my colleagues who participated in this.
Madam President.
The senator from Tennessee.
Madam President, I would like to thank the senator from New York and the senator from New Mexico and Oregon and Senator Harkin of Iowa for their efforts, some over many years, to achieve two goals: to help make the Senate a place that is better able to deal with the serious business that comes before us, and second, to preserve the Senate as a unique forum, unique in the world really, as a legislative body in its protection of minority rights. This is an important step forward. The reform of the Senate, but the reform the Senate really needs is a change in behavior, not in its rules. These rules move us in the right direction. The behavior that the senator from New York spoke about and that the majority leader and the minority leader spoke about is what in the end will really make the most difference. I've talked with many senators on both sides of the aisle. We've done a lot of talking, both on the floor here and off the floor, about where the Senate is today. And a great many of us feel the Senate really is a shadow of itself, shadow of its former self, in terms of its ability to function as a truly deliberative body. It is hard to see how the majority can complain after a legislative session where they passed health care legislation and financial reform legislation and other legislation that may have even resulted in a diminishing of their numbers. They had a productive, from their point of view, session. But the truth is, on both sides of the aisle, we would like to see the Senate function in a different way. The majority leader and Republican leader have put out in a colloquy what that way is, and that will govern what we do. But basically, I believe it is this. We want the same thing: a Senate where most bills are considered by committee, where most bills come to the floor as a result of bipartisan cooperation, where most bills are then debated and amended and then voted upon. To someone who just tuned into the United States Senate, you may say, well, that's a very simple solution. I thought that's what the Senate was supposed to be. It is what the Senate is supposed to be. And it wasn't so long ago that it was the standard operating procedure. Senator McConnell said it was just a few years ago. He and Senator Reid have both been here a number of years. I remember watching the Senate, and I've mentioned this before in this debate, between 1977 and 1985, when Howard Baker of Tennessee and Robert Byrd of West Virginia were the Republican and Democratic leaders. I had worked for Senator Baker before that as a legislative assistant. I knew Senator Byrd. Here's what went on then, and here's what could go on today. Most pieces of legislation that came to the floor started in committee. That gave us a chance to see what they really did, to improve them, to hear from voices from all over the country. Then that legislation came to the floor. During Senator Baker's day, when he was the majority leader, he wouldn't even bring a bill to the floor unless both the Republican chairman and the Democratic ranking member supported it, because he didn't want to waste the Senate's time. And he knew that with a 60-vote requirement in the Senate, that requirement forces consensus. See, people talk about the filibuster, but what we really have is a requirement that most important bills get 60 votes. And if you're sitting with 53 Democrats and 47 Republicans, you don't have to have an advanced degree in mathematics to figure out that if you don't have some Democrats and some Republicans, you don't get to 60. So Senator Baker was saying back in the 80s, bring the bill to the floor if it has the Republican chairman and the Democratic ranking member. Then the call would go out for amendments, and sometimes, Madam President, there would be 300 amendments. The senator from North Carolina or Tennessee might offer 40. And no one said, whoa, stop, you can't do that. Bring them on in. Sometimes there'd be 300 amendments. Then Senator Baker or Senator Byrd would ask for unanimous consent to close off amendments. Well, I guess because the senators by that time were exhausted from writing amendments, they all agreed to it, and then they started voting. Now it got to be Wednesday or Thursday, and the party secretaries would go to the senators and they'd say, I notice you still have 30 amendments waiting. Maybe you'd only like to offer 15. Might get to Friday, and they'd say, I notice you have 5 left. Maybe you'd only like to have 1. But if they had one that they wanted to get, they almost always got the amendment, Madam President. And that's what this real importance of this agreement is today. The difference of opinion we've had that has caused us to degenerate in some cases to a body that didn't function as well as it should has been because on that side of the aisle, the majority, people didn't want to vote. It's like joining the Grand Ole Opry and saying, I don't want to sing. Some Republican senator might offer an amendment that side doesn't want to vote on, and they say, well, we don't want to vote. Or they say, well, we don't want to work on Friday, and so they go home. And they put pressure on the majority leader to use a procedure called filling the tree, which cuts off votes and the right to amend. Majority leader used that power to cut off all amendments and debate 44 times more than the last 6 majority leaders combined. Then what happens over here? Well, then Republican senators, now in the minority, say, well, if we're not going to get amendments, we're going to start objecting. And so we have what's called a lot of filibusters. We say, you're counting filibusters when you cut off our right to offer amendments. They say, you guys over there are keeping us from doing our business. And on both sides, there's some truth to what has been said. So I think most senators are happy with this result. I think they will be. I hope that it works. I mean, the idea would be that the leaders will do their best to see that most bills go to committee, come to the floor, and that when they do, if the senator from North Carolina has an amendment that the senator from Tennessee would rather not vote on, she offers it anyway, if she wants to. Or if I have one she'd rather not vote on, I may offer it anyway, because it's important to the people of my state, even though we might be in a political minority at the moment. And I believe that if in most cases, most senators in the minority have that opportunity, that will help us get back to the kind of Senate that we want to see. Now, I would like to compliment Senator Udall and Senator Merkley and Senator Harkin. I learned a long time ago in life that if you start out in one direction, you don't always get exactly where you want to go, but you don't get anywhere if you don't start out. And I think what they have done with their intelligence and diligence and persistence in this have created a period of time here where the Senate is taking some steps today that will help the people of this country know that serious issues, and we've got plenty of them. The debt, for example, 42 cents out of every dollar we spend is borrowed. Jobs, for example, in my state, we've had 24 months of 9% unemployment. These changes will help us deal better with those issues. I will have more opportunity to talk about those after lunch later this afternoon. I want my friends on the other side to have a chance to make their points before we adjourn or take a recess for an hour. But fundamentally, the steps we're taking make a difference. The one I'm especially glad to see is the effort to make it easier for a president, any president, to staff his or her government. One of the problems, and Senator Reid talked about, is we confirm too many people. It's not necessary for us to confirm the PR officer for a minor department. There's no need for that. The Secretary needs to go ahead and be able to appoint that person, and we need to be able to work on more important issues. And then secondly, we've created a phenomenon in this town that I refer to as innocent until nominated. We've created a situation where any citizen who's invited by the president to serve in his government has to run such a gauntlet that it's almost impossible to get through the end of the gauntlet without being branded as a criminal. I mean, and the reason is we have a maze of conflicting forms in the executive branch, plus an IRS audit, and a maze of conflicting forms in the Senate. And it not only delays, but it traps people, and it tricks people into filling out one definition of income here and another one here. We all know this is true. We all know it needs to be fixed. Now, we've tried to fix it before, not just some of us. The majority leader and the Republican leader tried to fix it, and they didn't get it done. Senator Lieberman and Senator Collins tried to fix it, and they couldn't get it done. 2 years ago, at a bipartisan breakfast, which Senator Lieberman and I hosted, we had a whole group of us that said, let's try to get this done. We talked to President Obama's administration about it. They said, sure, go ahead. We'd like to see that happen, either for us or for the president after the next term. But we couldn't get it done because of resistance in this body to giving up any sort of power. Well, right now, Madam President, we have a unique confluence of support for the idea of making it easier for any president to staff his or her government. The majority leader and the Republican leader are solidly behind the effort. Senator Lieberman and Senator Collins are solidly behind the effort. Senator Schumer and I are working on a bill to do that, and we hope we can succeed. And this opportunity, this window, would not have happened if it hadn't been for the work of the senators who've been arguing for reforms. The other step we're likely to take is abolishing of the secret hold. I think that's a good idea. I speak from experience. When I was nominated by the first President Bush to be Education Secretary, the senator put a hold on my name. Took 3 months to get it off. I finally found out who it was. I never knew exactly why he did it or why he took it off. But it might help if I'd known it a little earlier. So I think it's a good idea. The majority leader put a hold on my TVA, one of my TVA nominees, but he did it publicly. So I put a hold on one of his nominees, and I did it publicly, and we worked it out. So there's nothing wrong with asserting our rights, but we might as well do it in public. And I congratulate the senators for making that effort. Senator Wyden and Senator Grassley have been working for more than a decade on that, as well as other senators. The step that says that if a bill has for 72 hours been on the internet and filed, that we can't require the clerks to read it all night long. That's a very common sense proposal. I know it will be greatly appreciated by the employees of the Senate who have the job of reading the bill. If they had a chance to vote, this would probably be the bill on which they would like to have a chance to vote yes. So these are important steps in the right direction about which we'll have a chance to talk more about today as the debate goes on. But I'd like to end where I began. What we need most in the Senate is a change in behavior in addition to this change in rules. We need to preserve the Senate as a forum for minority rights. We need to preserve the 60-vote requirement for major votes. That will force consensus. That will cause us to work together. That will build support out in the country for the result of what we do, because they can see that both Republicans and Democrats think, for example, that the way we've gone about trying to make Social Security solvent is a good way, rather than one side or the other just jamming through their partisan way. There's a reason why it's a good idea for this not to be a body that operates by a simple majority like the House does. I mean, the House can repeal the health care bill overnight, bring it over to the Senate. That side says, let's stop and think about it. The House, if it's Democratic, can repeal the secret ballot in union elections overnight. And it did with its vote in the last Congress, but when it came over here, the Republican side said, let's stop and think about it. The American people are better served by having these two different kinds of bodies, and the Senate and the American people will be better served both by the rules changes that we're likely to adopt this afternoon, and especially by the agreement by the majority leader and the Republican leader, which I feel confident has the backing of almost all of us, that we would like to work in a United States Senate where most bills are considered by committee, where most bills come to the floor, and where senators most of the time have an opportunity to offer their amendments in debate. To be sure, there will be times when, if it's repeal of the health care, that side does everything they can do to exercise their rights to stop it. Or if it's repeal of the secret ballot in union elections, this side will do everything we can to exercise our rights to stop it. But that won't be the ordinary course of events if this works like we hope it does. So I hope that my friends on the other side feel good about what they've done. They haven't achieved everything they sought to achieve, but none of us, well, we rarely ever do, particularly in a body of 100 that offers by consent of 100. And what they have done, I believe, in addition to the rules changes that we're likely to adopt, is created a window in which we had a good open discussion about the kind of place we wanted to work, the kind of Senate that we hope would serve the American people the best, and we've come to a consensus about a change in behavior, which I believe in the end will be more important than the change in the rules. Madam President, I yield the floor.
Madam President.
The senator from New Mexico.
Madam President, I have a couple of unanimous consent requests on committees and also on a staff member. I have 5 unanimous consent requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders. And I ask unanimous consent that these requests be agreed to and that these requests be printed in the record.
Without objection.
And I also ask unanimous consent for Tim Woodbury on my staff be granted floor privileges for today's debate.
Without objection.
And before Senator Alexander leaves, I know we have our conferences, and I guess we're going to go to about one today, but I'd like to thank him for all of his efforts, and I really look forward to Senator Alexander being the ranking member. I believe he's going to be the ranking member on the Rules Committee now that Bob Bennett has moved on to other things, and he's participated in many of these hearings, and I really look forward to continuing the exchange on rules that we've had. I don't think this is the end of the rules debate, and I think that's why we have a full-time Rules Committee to take a look at this, and I hope these new senators that are listening to us today that you're going to talk to on your side, I'm sure in about 15 minutes, Senator Alexander, that they look at our rules and offer suggestions, and we still